All right, guys, thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Today we are with Bill Rodiker and Cassie Rodiker, the Rodiker Group, and we're going to be talking about the real estate market and the psychology of real estate. Our Phil will kind of lead into this a little bit, but typically our highest best use working with people, making that transition from one place to the other is dealing with the emotion of the real estate transaction. It's not an easy thing. I think it's kind of we don't really touch on it much when we're talking to people. I was actually talking to a client just yesterday about it. It's like you're literally uprooting and moving everything over, and that's can be overwhelming, right? That's a big thing. You're thinking about your family. You're thinking about holidays. You're thinking about a lot of things when you're buying real estate, and so emotion is a big thing. But
Yes.
before we kind of get into that, can you, I guess, introduce yourself a little bit as far as your background and what you guys do? And
Yeah. My name's Philip Rodiker. I've been doing real estate here in this area for 34, 35 years. I've helped thousands of people move from to property. Cassie has the same last name, happens to be my daughter.
yeah,
Okay. And
You
she
gave all of our secrets away already.
already.
yeah.
And she
Spoiler.
graduated from Central with a business degree and marketing degree, and she's working on that side of the business for us.
Mhm.
I'm here like in the middle. I have operations manager, so I'm in the middle, taking care of the client's needs and making sure that they're taken care of and that their questions are being answered. Not too much unlike an attorney, like a doctor, like a CPA. We fit in the middle here and we help them with those critical questions.
Mm.
And we have the marketing side to make sure that all the pieces are together. So when they come on the market, or if there's anything the buyer needs up front for showing, Cassie takes care of all that. And then on the back side, escrow and title, I have an ops manager that takes care of that. And my center focus is right here to make sure that they're being taken care of and that they feel comfort in the process, because it's a big deal to move. If the average person does it 3 times in their entire life, I mean, the emotions of it rank right up there with death, divorce, and bankruptcy.
Mhm.
So it's a big emotional swing for people, and they need somebody that's going to be focused on them and making sure that their questions are answered and that they feel like they've been taken care of.
You're part psychologist.
Part.
Yeah, we say that
But,
all the time.
I think it's a psychologist from the School of Hard Knocks of helping people day in and day out
Yeah.
for the last 30 years.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think he covered most of it. I'm a licensed agent as well, so I help out some of that. We separate our duties based on, front end, middle. He's the middleman, and then we have the end portion of operations manager who's out of Tennessee. But then we meld all of our tasks together. Need
Yeah.
be
Nice.
dynamic team.
Yeah.
Never a boring day.
Yeah. Well, and you touched on a little bit as far as 34, 35 years and never a boring day, and there's something to be said about the longevity. um, you know
Yeah.
3+ decades is there's a lot of change in that, a lot of different cycles, shifts in the market, and I obviously we work together, right?
Yeah.
And I've experienced some of those with you over the last 15 years.
Good or bad?
All good.
Oh,
All good. I mean, the cycles may not be good, but I mean, we've handled it well, I believe,
Yeah,
right? So,
sure.
I want to kind of have you touch on really, the staying power that, how you've shifted, how you've pivoted. Um, you know, one of the analogies is like skating where the puck is going versus, just your ability
Yeah.
to pivot is one of the best I've seen in the industry. And so I want you to maybe kind of touch on how you look at things that might be a little bit different than others.
Yeah, so I work daily with my team, but I also anticipate, right? So I'm always watching the future. I'm looking at where the market's going. I'm watching the news, right, and where the financial markets are, and I'm watching where the interest rates are. So things that I pay attention to, or as our leader, John Lennox Scott, the business has been there for 90 years. He puts out reports that we read to kind of get an idea of how the forecasting is going for the future. I watched a really good clip the other night that Elon Musk did. He talking about the future of money and space travel,
Mhm.
and where artificial intelligence is going. And I try to equate all these things that I'm watching back into real estate, saying if these things are happening, how is it going to affect real estate, and how do we need to shift? So I'm looking at that people that have a futuristic look on or perspective on what's going on. And then I try to bring that back to real estate to see how it's going to affect us positively or negatively in real estate, and try to move towards that based on other leaders in our society that are talking about futuristic things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in terms of pivoting too, you always say something that I think is really impactful and a great concise way to put it, of always just go towards the scarcity.
Yeah.
You move towards the scarcity and you'll have abundance.
Yeah, it's true.
What do you mean by scarcity, right? So you say, okay, in real estate, what does scarcity actually mean? It means where there's a lack, there's always need.
Mhm.
So when you say, back in 2008, what was scarce in 2008? Buyers, right? So in 2008, that's when the market was crashing and everybody's houses needed to come on the market. So we had an abundance of listings. So the buyers became scarce. They were still there, but they had so many options they couldn't make decisions. So we moved towards the buyers,
Mhm.
right? And then when COVID hit, right, what happened? Everybody got locked down in their houses. So inventory became scarce. So we moved towards inventory. So we're moving towards what's scarce in the market. And when you move towards what's scarce in the market, you're always delivering good news to the person you're with. So when it's a scarcity of buyers and you're working with the buyers, they have an abundance of inventory. You can go, look, you have all this inventory you can look at here. Let's negotiate this way or negotiate this way. You're always bringing good news versus a seller when he's competing with 15 other sellers trying to sell his house. What is the agent doing? They're constantly bringing bad news to him.
Yeah.
So we always want to be on the good news side of the equation. Not always going to be that way, but if you move your business towards that, you'll last longer in the business because you're not constantly delivering bad news, right? And so that's why I say you last longer if you move towards the scarcity in the market.
Love it. So when we look at the as far as scarcity, what do you see right now in this market? And I kind of already know the answer, but I want to kind of hear it from you. I mean, we had the opposite issue in 2008. So where are you headed as far as the scarcity? Where do you see that going? And is it as obvious as it seems, or do you see there's other opportunities there?
So when you look at that, right,
Mhm.
especially this year is, I don't know if the tape's going out this week or 10 years from now. This is
Right.
2023,
Right.
right? We're in. You look at it like an ocean, okay? So I scuba dive for a lot of years. And so when we're there, we have to watch the tide tables, right?
Mhm.
Because what we have in the ocean is you have what's called ebb and flood, okay? So what's ebb? Ebb is when the tide's going out. Flood is when it's coming in,
Mhm.
okay? There's something in the middle that happens. It's called slack, okay? Slack is when the ocean is not moving at all. It's going through an exchange. It's exchanging from one tide to the other. So it slacks for about a half an hour, 45 minutes before the tide shifts and changes. So it's in, out, and slack. So most of your activity in the ocean, when the movement's happening in the ocean, it's happening in slack because the fish can't fight the current, right? Both ways. So they have to shelter.
Mhm.
Okay. So slack. So I look at real estate right now, slack. We're not ebb, we're not flood. We don't have a lot of inventory. We don't have a lot of buyers. We're kind of trying to reposition ourselves with all the interest rate changes. We've had 9 interest rate changes. There's unsettledness on both sides.
Mhm.
So the buyers aren't really jumping as fast as they were before because the interest rates are so high. But the sellers also, with their low interest rates that they locked into last year, aren't necessarily ready to put their houses on the market either. So we're in a slack season where we have not a lot of buyers and not a lot of sellers, right? Usually it's like a pendulum, right? Teeter totter. When the buyers are down, inventory goes up. When inventory's down, buyers are up.
Mhm.
Right now, we're kind of like right in the middle. So I don't think it's found its ground yet. I think there's going to be more, I guess, calmness, right? Slack in the market for the rest of this year.
Mhm.
And if the government continues to raise interest rates, it's going to have a severe negative impact on real estate. Because right now, parts of the country, they're seeing price adjustments. We haven't seen a lot of them. We've seen a little price adjustment, but we're pretty stable. We're not raising as fast as we were. We're stabilized the prices, but another interest rate, they're going to start coming back down.
Mhm.
The other thing that's going to start suffering is jobs, right? Because the businesses out there, there's two ways to go. They can borrow money to expand, or they can, relieve themselves of overhead, which is payroll,
Mhm.
to expand. And if the interest rates are so high, they can't borrow money to expand. They have to release payroll to expand. It's just the way businesses operate.
Mhm.
So my thought in the future is that if we don't calm the interest rate movement down, we could potentially be looking at issues in employment, which is going to cause a negative effect in real estate, because people are going to be fearful and they're going to be selling their houses at a discount to stabilize their home environment.
Mhm.
And that's when we get into a different situation where inventory kicks up and the buyers kick down, and then it becomes more of a buyer's market. So it could be moving towards a buyer's market. Right now we're in a stable medium market, but it could be moving towards a buyer's market, depending on what the government does. Now, if they come back and start lowering the interest rates, and the buyers, because you got to remember, buyers are qualified to repay debt. So they're qualified for a monthly payment. They're really not qualified for a purchase price. They're qualified to repay debt.
Mhm.
So if the interest rate changes your payment from $2,000 a month, and in 1 year that same house is now $6,000 a month, that's shock,
Mhm.
right? And so we have to stabilize that shock in the market right now. So that's where I'm saying we're kind of in slack, because buyers don't really know what's happening or what's happening in the future, nor do the sellers. And so I think we just need this year to play out so we can see what we got.
Yeah. I feel like there's always like a 6 to 8 month lag for people to digest the situation that we're in right now.
Mhm.
To have, whether I'm comfortable with it or not comfortable with it, that it takes some time for them to kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah.
And the issue that we've seen on the mortgage side of things is, as rates have been going up, that's actually, in our world, it's the media gets it wrong 100% of the time,
Yeah.
right? As the Fed is raising interest rates, that actually helps our mortgage interest rates. It's not a it doesn't directly impact a 30-year mortgage. It
Yeah.
impacts auto loans, and it impacts credit cards, home equity lines of credit, like a second mortgage. But for our mortgages, what they're doing is they're curbing the fear of inflation. Inflation is the arch enemy of a mortgage-backed security.
Yeah.
And so rates follow inflation. So the fact that the Fed has been doing this in a way is needed to happen.
Yeah.
They were very slow to do it, and that's why we have so much pain. They didn't react. It's
Yeah.
transitory inflation that caused us a lot of pain. And so, to your point with the slack, I feel you're dead on. We don't really know. We can't say it's this market or this market yet, because it's almost like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
We have very low inventory. You have people that are locked in at a low cost of money, low rent on that money, and even if they wanted to sell, even if they're willing to take a higher interest rate, 7%, whatever that is, 6%. Okay, where's the inventory that I'm going to buy?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's a bottleneck, and so I think you hit it dead on. I mean, slack. I haven't actually heard the term slack, and I like that analogy.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start stealing it.
Go ahead.
Use it.
Steal
Yeah.
whatever I got. Yeah.
But no, I think it's it, and we see that, and you're seeing that, right? I mean, obviously, numbers are down, closings are down, volumes down. But we talk often in our core group, with movement and leadership, is like, it's not a time for profit, it's a time for progress.
Yeah.
And so it's in providing value, having conversations like we're doing right now, and educating people, like we're going to gain market share, and it's
Yeah.
so that progress is allowing us to, take on additional market share. So but I love that explanation.
Yeah. I think the movement in the market right now is just life events,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a lot of life events going on that
Absolutely.
when the market's going crazy and the noise is going and the transactions are coming in, you can't discern the ones that are opportunists that are taking advantage of the market, and the
Right.
ones that are actually doing it for life reasons, right?
Right.
And the good thing about a market like this is it exposes those life events to us, and it recenters us with our clients that we've worked with in the past
Yep.
that need us, right? And sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle, but I think today it really is going to recenter the agents to know that being connected to the clients or to their customers, and to listen to them and to hear what they're trying to do in their life, whether they're growing their family and they're growing out of where they're at and they need to get someplace because they need that space, or if they're empty nesters and now they're retracting and the house is too much for them and they can't take that on, or the taxes, there's going to be ancillary reasons for sales and buys right now other than opportunity, which is good because this is when really good agents that have been here for a long time can have a candid conversation with somebody and help drive them towards what's most important from past experiences when markets were like this. And you remember, in my tenure, I've been through 4 economic downturns, right? I watched Boeing when they were doing their thing and they went up, and then they moved everybody to Everett and shut down the South End. And then we had, Microsoft came into the scene, and then the dot-com boom and bust, right? Then we went through the mortgage meltdown back in 2008, and now we're going through this one. This is the 4th one.
Yep.
So I have been able to help clients in all seasonality and all circumstances throughout their highs and lows, and I can see almost what's coming in the future, and I can speak into that. Or if there's agents out there, I don't want to pick on anybody, but if there's agents out there that haven't been through an economic downturn, there's really no way for them to understand it until they experience it. So some of the agents are just experiencing what this is like for the first time. And that's why having agents that are out here and the nice thing about having an agent like me is I can help the agents that don't really understand. They can call me and I'm happy to talk to them about what they can anticipate just from my series of anticipations. And it really helps, right? And so I think that's a huge benefit right now in the market.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have an unmatched ability to mitigate fear throughout this Slack period for people within our database or even agents. He's always, we always have newer agents coming to our office, and he is like a fire hose of information towards them. And it's, it's very impactful. It's very impactful.
Yeah.
And it's what's necessary right now to keep things moving, because people have a lot of fears and anxieties when they have those have to moves in a time that's not necessarily ideal, but life goes on.
I have a deal right now. A listing agent is at the Kent office, and so he saw the flyer of the event that we were hosting for the social media marketing, and he saw you on there. He's like, "I know Phil."
Yeah.
So he told me a little bit of backstory.
Is it okay to air this? Whatever was coming.
Yeah, no, it was good. He's like,
I just want to censor it real quick.
He's been doing it. I think just over 10 years. Brad Kenning.
Oh yeah.
He's like, Phil took me on his wing, helped me out, starting out, and so I mean, it's the fact that you educate and you pour in, because again, there is no real secrets. There shouldn't be any secrets in this, right? At the end of the day, our job is to help people and build relationships. And like the event that you attended on the panel that we were hosting, really it's collaboration and building a currency and building relationships with agents that have the same goal and mindset. Like shouldn't be any secrets in this industry, because at the end of the day, we're trying to take care of people. I mean, the number of cars that have driven by since we've been talking is enough business for an entire year for all of us, right? I mean, there's so many people that need help, and to have a mindset of scarcity, like this is mine and I'm going to hoard it and I don't want to, it doesn't do well.
No.
And so you have a deal with Brad, or you have an offer and it's his listing, or vice versa. It's like, I know and trust this guy, and he does great business. I know that he's taking care of his clients. You're more apt to want to work with someone like that versus someone that doesn't, so that's I guess a compliment to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
About time I got one.
You've been waiting all day.
I've been waiting all day for that one.
Well, I asked Tammy you want to say anything nice? She's like, no.
Nah.
Hung up on me.
Dial tone. I haven't heard dial tone on the phone in a long time, but this time I did.
Yeah.
Throwing you way back.
No.
Yeah, and when you have those intentions too, it just brings you around like-minded people,
right?
And you can just continue to grow.
Yeah, and that's during this. I mean, because we've been on the. I mean, a lot of people don't know. I mean, you're starting to see it in the economy now, where there's some fractures and some stress, and they're talking recession more and more and more. Like, are we in it? Are we almost in it? Anything that has to do with interest rates, I think industry-wise has been feeling it, and we've been feeling it over a year now.
Yeah.
But typically, if you look back at any recession, we lead mortgage and real estate lead the economy back out of it. As rates come down, those things start picking up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's all gas or all brake of the Fed and their policy. And you know, we're not going to get into the political side of it, but I mean, we're getting kind of whiplash, you know, is from the back and
Well,
forth of
and
it.
you're going to look at the thing that we're having a problem with too in this country is we're losing our trades, right?
Mhm.
We're losing our trades. And so when you look at a house when it's built, how many tradesmen does it take to build one house? If you really think about it, you need somebody that can do land survey. You need a utilities company. You need somebody that can do blacktop. You need to have a foundation specialist. You need to have framers. You need to have somebody to manufacture and mill the wood. You need somebody to create nails. You got to have siding. You have to have windows. Somebody's got to get the glass. You know, you have to have the interior. You got to have somebody who creates porcelain. You got to have tile layers. You can go on and on and on about all the different trades that go into building a house.
Yep.
And when things slow down, all those trades slow down too, and it actually really cripples the economy,
Yeah.
right? Because of so many people that are involved in it. Then you look at not only our side, you look at the commercial side, and all the steel workers, and you look at all the you can go on and on and on
Mhm.
with how many people get impacted by it. So when we have situations like this happen, it doesn't last very long. It doesn't. If you look back over the four that we were in, we had like
It's
1-2 years, and then we shoot up for 10 years. Then
mhm.
you have a 1-2 year. And all it is just a little bit of a reset so we can take off again,
Mhm.
right? It's just a little bit of, take your breath. It's going to be okay. And then things are going to take off again. That's why I'm saying, you get into, an election cycle, which is going to be 2024. The economy has to be in good shape because people are fighting for seats, right? And so I think that once we get, into that process a little bit more, things are going to start easing up, and it'll start happening again,
Mhm.
right? So, but with me, real estate, I come from a whole different school of how you communicate with people, right? When you start talking about, okay, the psychology of working with people, back when I first started back in 1989, 1990, we didn't have technology at all. I'm BC, before computers, before we used
Don't
to.
age yourself now.
It's okay to age yourself sometimes, when we had to go from
Experience
telephone booth
matters.
to telephone booth to call people. But here's the
Jeez.
but here's the thing I'm getting at. It was more about the communication style that we had than it was the fancy flyers. We didn't have anything like that except the way we communicated with each
Mhm.
other, right? And the way we talked and the things that we brought to the table, and we showed them benefits of what they were doing and making sure that they were feeling comfortable. And there's lots of different techniques back then that we used to help people, get from point A to point B. And I think a little bit of that's lost. It's lost today.
Mhm.
And I think a little bit more of that, if it comes back, it's really going to be beneficial for the consumer because it helps them understand, right? So the more we can have them see what's possible, the more they're going to move towards that, you know,
Yep.
opportunity, right? That they feel like they're getting.
The
So,
level of service too.
yeah.
So the psychology of it, we touched on at the beginning and kind of been skipping across a little bit of it, but you know, you've told me several times, and we'll go on rants and we talk, and you know, just whether it's just kind of coaching each other up and you know, updating each other and things like that. But it's like, you know, our number one, highest and best use is you know, helping people through the emotions of this, and it's
Mm-hmm.
an emotional process. When I'm taking an application, when I'm meeting with someone for the very first time, I said, this is the only time that we're going to have a conversation where there's no emotion involved.
Mm-hmm.
The second that you start walking through a home, it's human nature. Doesn't matter who you are. I've been doing this forever. I have a couple homes. There's emotion involved
Mm-hmm.
because you can't not be emotional when it comes, even if you're not an emotional person. I'm not talking about sobbing or, you know, anything else. It's just like it changes your perception and you revert back to different things versus going the logical route.
It's
So
the vision when you walk in the
absolutely,
home, and
it's your kids, it's birthdays, it's holidays, it's,
Mhm.
you know, like I I've explained, you know, with my wife and you know with my kids, like we brought our kids home to the home we're in right now. That's an
Mm-hmm.
emotional thing.
Mhm.
Like I can think right now, like the day that we sell our home, that's probably going to be kind of a sad day in a way because there's
Mm-hmm.
so many memories
Of
with my
course, yeah.
kids and you know family and everything else. So let's have the conversation now where we can put our business hats on and we can be that person and say, here's the line in the sand. I don't want my payment more than this. I don't want this. This is what I want. These are my goals. because you haven't seen your family in this particular home. When it's the other way around, where they've already walked through the home and it's like, I need it, I need it, I need it, it's a different conversation. I had to kind of deprogram it a little bit and explain that, like, hey, there's some emotion tied to it. I want to make sure I really, really understand where we are with this, because we don't want to get into the 11th hour and now you have buyer's remorse and this anxiety, because I don't write that check, I don't send that money, and you do, and I don't want you to be walking back from your mailbox with horse drool because you have anxiety. Like, I don't want to make this payment for the next 3 decades.
Right.
So let's what is that payment? What does that look like? Have you guys talked about the budget? Have you figured that out? If not, let's have that conversation now. So when you are with Phil and Cass, it's like one of those things where it's like, I'm at the door, I already know where the payment is. I know down to the cent. Now you're justifying. So if it's $200 more than what you said your highest payment that you're willing to pay, now you're justifying it. Well, it's 20 minutes closer to work. It's got an extra bedroom. I can cancel a gym membership. I can do a home gym now. I can do so. Now you're shopping. I want you to look at the tag before you try on the shirt, because you can't. I always say you can't take it back. It's not like a shirt. If you don't like the color of it or the way it fits, it's not like you can return it. It costs a lot of money to get in. Costs a lot of money to get back out. And so, you've touched on it several times. Like, yeah, highest best use is managing people's emotions, and you don't do that with a mindset of transaction. You do it based on the fact that this is a relationship, and it's going to be okay if this isn't the home for them, because you said it earlier, 3 homes on average in a lifetime. You want to build that relationship to where it's like, I'm helping with all 3 and all their friends and coworkers and family, because I'm taking care of them, and it's okay if it's not right now. So I appreciate that about you and your approach. And it is, I guess, I don't want to say it's unique. I work with some really amazing brokers, but it's not the norm, which is kind of sad. My approach on the lending side from loan officers is not the norm. I have some friends that work at banks, and I actually just met with a guy today that used to work at a bank, and he's like, I would pretend like I knew what I was looking at, and then I would send the package in, and then it would come back with a yes or no from underwriting, and then I would have to kind of pretend like I understood why they was turned down. We understand the ins and outs. We look at our findings. We know how to put together a loan. So it's just a different approach, because we're focused on the relationship and the person versus the transaction and volume type thing. So.
Absolutely. And I think that that's what makes all of this so rewarding too, is being beyond the transaction. We're there for the questions afterwards, and if you need a painter's phone number, or where it's beyond that, and that's what fulfills us too. And the way that you set it up, of setting down the nitty-gritty, getting that all out of the way and setting those expectations, so then when we come to the door, we have that all in mind, and then, like you said, we can shop or see if the commute is worth the extra money, but at least they understand everything. And how scary that some people don't even understand it from a business side and send people into it. So that's incredible that you're doing it the right way.
Well, and you guys are as well. So
now, yes, with me, as an agent, I look at somebody that's doesn't do this every single day, right? Like, I don't do surgery every day. I'm the lost
Thank
on
goodness.
That. I mean, can you imagine me with a scalpel? I'm just saying. There's things that I really will defer.
We've seen
to
you cut a
else.
steak, Phil. No, it's not good.
So I'm just saying that.
That's why I'm vegetarian, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Like this, it's weird.
That's right. Yeah, do it that way. Yeah. So I'm just saying that there's specialties that other people should take on, that they've practiced their whole life. They've got a doctorate degree in what they're doing, because they've taken that on as their vocation, and they've taken it serious, and they're not going to let anybody down. And I mean, if you take it at that level and you look and you say, I want somebody here that's got me like a doctor has me, or an attorney has me, CPA, that's the level of importance that I see in the business. And so when I look at the clients, I look at like, okay, when a sheep is outside the gate, what is he? Lost, right? And so who has to help the sheep? The sheep herder has to get them back in the corral so they don't wander off. And so what I am doing as an agent is I'm helping herd the mind of the client so they stay on track. And so there's little things that you can do as agents to help clients see things in the right light, first of all, do it in systematic order so it's not confusing, right? A
Or
lot of agents,
overwhelming.
what a lot of agents do is a buyer calls them, oh, I saw a house on ABC Street. Can you come over and show it to me? Yeah. And they run over and they
Let's go
show it
right
to them. They
now.
just go right now and they get all excited and they do that. And then the buyer, what does the agent do? They bring two more listings with them. What they've done is they've started a cycle of showing them properties, which is totally backwards. The actual step process to purchase is to figure out the finances first. Rob comes first. Okay. You want them to talk about their finances and get comfortable with that because it's the scariest spot for everybody.
Mhm.
So as fast as we can, we get them in a spot where they're talking about their finances. Once they've done that, then we really have to explore the area, the extracurricular activities that they have, their commute to work, the schools, shopping, everything that they're going to do, right? So we want to make sure that that area is right, whatever that is, if it's down here or if it's up north. Everybody's got a community that they feel comfortable in. We get them into that community and then we look for the house. Okay, that's step 3, not step 1.
Mhm.
And so what a lot of agents do is they flip it upside down. They run out, show them a house, then they talk about the area. Then, oh, by the way, are you qualified? Oh, you're not. Oh, and it burns not only the agent out, but it burns the client out because they feel like, why did we go through all that if there wasn't a positive end result for me? Where if they just would have taken that sequence and flipped it upside down and said the first most important thing is let's figure out the finance. The second thing, let's figure out the area they're comfortable with, and the house will reveal itself.
Mhm.
House will be easy to find once we have these 2 things figured out. And when you take that approach, the client, the customer, the buyer is a lot more comfortable with you because they see you're a professional and that you're taking them through the proper steps because all they want to do is be led the right way. And if you lead them the right way, they're going to work with you and they're going to trust you. The process is know, like, trust. They have
Mhm.
to feel like they know you. That's why we do all the advertisement that Cassie does, right? To get our
Yeah.
name institutionally out there. So there's some knowledge of you being a reputable person in the marketplace. Then you start with conversations and help them through this process. So they go, hey, I like what he's saying.
Yep.
So I know of him and I like what he's saying. And then trust is formed. And when we have trust with our clients, they will stick with you because there's so many other areas of our life where people get let down. And so our job is to lift them up, not let them down. And so the more we lift them up and help them get to their goal, right?
Mhm.
The more they're going to want to work with us and be a raving fan and talk to their friends about it because we put their priorities in order first before we did anything else.
Mhm.
And when you flip that order around of going to the home first, it's inevitable that emotions are going to get involved. People's expectations are likely going to get, set aside or put down because you didn't put it in order and you didn't match what they're even capable of doing.
Mhm.
You have to mitigate those emotions from the beginning. Do it in a step process.
Yeah. So I want to touch on um, you guys working together as as a family, right? Father,
Here we
daughter.
go.
Yeah. So I see it maybe a little bit differently, and that's why I want the how that works, because there's obviously it's your daughter, it's your dad, right? And then there's the business side of it. So I work with
Mhm.
my wife, and everyone
Yeah.
we've been asked a million times, how do you work with your spouse?
Oh, I've been asked a million times.
Yeah,
How do you work with your
and
dad?
it's just kind of interesting because
Yeah.
I guess
I've never
there's
been asked. Why don't they ask me these questions?
but
Because they're
it's
asking me.
yeah, but it is interesting because
Mhm.
it's like, well, we do life together. I'm speaking of Aveen and I.
Right.
We've gone through a lot of life, gone through tragedy, gone through all these things. It's like there's no one else we trust more.
Mhm.
So I don't see why that's such a big shocker. But I mean,
Right.
obviously, there's just different relationships and dynamics. But
Absolutely.
outside looking in, but also knowing you both more, so I have a little bit different,
Mhm.
vantage point. But I've seen a change in you in a
Good or
good
bad?
way,
Yeah.
Okay,
good
all right,
way,
yeah.
good way.
Finish your sentence.
Yeah. Because I don't know. And I hate to kind of keep coming because I've said it to you guys a couple times, but there was a video you guys were shooting, or he was shooting because he was in the room by himself.
All alone.
Yeah. Because you've thrown him in front of the camera more and
Mhm.
more and more because there's a lot of knowledge there, and
Oh, absolutely.
there's only so many postcards and emails and everything else. I
Mhm.
mean, video content. That's what we did the whole panel about the other day.
Mhm.
Is
Which I
social
knew
media.
nothing about.
Yeah,
But I
social
call
media.
him the one take wonder. I throw him in front of the video and
Yeah.
he spits it right out.
Yeah, but it was funny that video because it's like you saw, I saw the relationship where you're like, because you're holding up a sign and he's in the room by himself, but he's like, Cassie's telling me to smile now, and you grab the sign from her, like, so she's telling me to smile, but it's just funny because it's like it's a peek behind the curtain a little bit as
Right.
far as how your relationship is, and I mean, I think it's cool,
Yeah.
and for me, like, so Alvin and I will be, meeting with a client because we share an office, right? So it's just we kind of tag team the approach and having the
Mhm.
conversations. But I always had this in the back of my mind, just the way I think. I've always wondered, like, based on that comfort level that I was talking about, the emotion side of it.
Mhm.
There's clients that gravitate towards her.
Mhm.
Well, she's way
Mhm.
better looking than me, um, but
We're
because
not
they
better
feel
looking than me.
well, I don't
Okay,
know.
there you go.
But it's interesting, just the dynamic. So but
Mhm.
it builds a different level of trust, in my opinion.
Right.
And so having father daughter, this duo, I
Mhm.
think it builds trust differently, right?
Mhm.
For the people that are watching.
Mhm.
But I wanted to kind of get your take on it, and then your take, or I don't know
Right.
who wants to go first on maybe the not necessarily the struggles, but like the weird things. It's like, how do we draw the line in the sand? I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm opening up
It's
any
a
weird.
therapy session right here.
Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, but it's interesting because for me, I mean, I feel like you guys are successful, and the reason why we started doing these podcasts, I guess we call them podcasts,
Mhm.
is because we want to expose people that are successful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We want to spotlight you and expose you to the communities that we're serving that haven't met you personally,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and explain and allow you guys to kind of talk about really who you are as a person, and to build that trust. And
Mhm.
Right.
there's a lot of success in what you've done, but I also see a lot of success in what you're going to do, just based
Mhm.
on how you've structured the team, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
People want to get behind something that it resonates with them, they can
Yeah.
identify with, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, what obviously she's in marketing, she's done marketing, is kind of a natural thing, but was there, I already could think I know the answer is probably no, but was there any kind of like hesitation on, like, if I have to really, again, personal business, how do I come down on something where I need this fixed or this done? I mean, have you guys had that talk? What does that look like?
Well, I guess Cass can answer this too, but I'll answer it the way I see it. Then she can answer it the way she sees
Okay.
it. But I believe that all the learning, all the growth, all the expansion, all the all the future, projects, everything we do is all built in mistakes. Because if you're not making mistakes, you're not growing, you're not learning, you're not expanding.
Yeah.
So I lean into mistakes or issues as a learning opportunity, and I don't ever, get heavy. I guess you would say. Have I ever gotten really heavy when problems
No,
happen?
you're always open to educating versus throwing the hammer down.
Yeah, because I realize that learning's in the mistakes.
Right.
Hmm.
And if we understand that we're like, okay, I'll use the boat analogy because I was a diver, so I'll come
Yeah.
back to that.
It's
Okay.
going from sheep herder
Just
to
boating
sailor
it,
to
so I can
all
I can get
different
in I can
hats
get into the
today.
hot air balloon later, but I'll talk to you about
Oh, I'm
this
excited
right
for
now.
that one.
I'll tell you about the hot air balloon later, but I'll tell you about this one. When a captain of a ship pulls away from port, he is always on what's called a course correction, constant course correction. It's constant course correction because if the boat comes out, what does he have to deal with? He's got to deal with the currents. He's got to deal with the waves. He's got to deal with the wind. He's got to deal with everything that's out there. That's why we need a captain on a ship. Ships can't run themselves.
Hmm.
especially our ferry boats, because they run right into
I
sandbars.
know.
Okay, not
Exactly.
even all the captains can figure it out
Oh,
because there's
goodness.
things undercurrent under the water that they can't see. They have depth finders to help them, but sometimes it doesn't even work for them. But I'm just saying that the captains are always on course correction. So if they say we're going to follow the North Star, that's what they did for years and years and years. That is a course heading, right? So we go at the beginning of the year and we create a course heading, and then we spend the rest of the year doing course correction. So if we're down and we're like 1 degree off, if you look at where we start and where we finish, if you're just 1 degree off, you could be miles off at the end
Mhm.
because you didn't take time to do course correction, and you do it all the time. But it's little course correction. If that sailor just goes 1 degree to the right, starboard, aft, port, whatever way he's going, if he just does that 1 degree move at that moment, then it could put us back on the right course.
Mhm.
And so what we do is we have Monday meetings, and all our Monday meetings are about is course correction to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right, that Cassie's doing what she's supposed to be doing right, and that our ops manager is doing what she's supposed to be doing right. And everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are for that week. So we're on course. And we don't
Yeah.
wait a whole year to course correct. By then we're so far off
Right.
and we can't get back. And then it turns into I thought. Or if we just have every 7 days, we just talk about what's most important in our business and where we want to go. Course correct, course correct, course correct. Then there is no heavy hand because everybody knows where they're supposed to be going. And then there's no arguments in that. The other thing, I tell people this, they don't believe me. I don't have the
I'll
ringer.
fact check him.
I don't have the
Oh,
ringer
yes.
turned on my phone.
That's true.
My
entire
phone
life, I've never heard his phone ring.
You've
Well,
never-
there's been a couple one-offs where you
accidentally-
accidentally switch
there's-
it on in your back pocket.
by
but
accident,
yeah,
yeah.
that happens.
But I'm not answering it back there anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
He's
but
ignoring the
for
call.
the majority, and I'm talking to my daughter that's known me my whole life,
Mhm.
how many times have you actually heard my phone ring?
A
around
legitimate ring, never.
Yeah.
An accidental
Maybe.
one-offs.
Okay.
Yeah. But
So, but there's a reason for that.
no. Mhm.
There's a reason why I do that. Now, remember, you guys, I've been in the business 3 decades. I didn't have these when I started, okay? But when we first got these things, they weren't phones, they were pagers.
Mhm.
And my pager used to ring because I thought you needed to answer everything instantaneous. Everybody's always looking at their pagers. I don't know. And so I was thinking, like, I'm not a doctor. Nobody's going to die, first of all, right? But I'm thinking, how is that, when I'm looking at that when somebody's talking to me, how is that fair to them?
Mhm.
How is that fair to the people in this room right now if I'm sitting here and that rings? Because what does it do to everybody in the room the moment it rings? It distracts everybody because everybody wants to know what it is.
Mhm.
So we lose our concentration, we lose our momentum, we lose everything over a ringer on a phone. And so I figured out decades ago that if I just turn the ringer off on the phone, if somebody calls me and it goes to voicemail or they text me, when we're done, I can get back to them. It's that
Mhm.
simple.
Mhm.
And I think it's worked okay. But the thing that it's really done for me in Cassie's life is that I was not taking work home.
Mhm.
Because if I chose to put that on the table and not look at it, I wouldn't know if it rang or not. And I'm not anxious about it because it just doesn't ring. If I hear a phone ring, I don't worry who it is or what it is, why it is, because I know it's not mine.
Mhm.
And so something as simple as that you can bring into your business, and some people go, I'd never do that, but then you get into a cup of coffee. But I'm saying that's a decision I made. Now, my friends, my clients, people that I've worked with, customers, always know that when I'm in front of you, it's the single most important thing to me. So if you go to voicemail, it doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. It means that there's somebody in front of me right now that's got my attention. And as soon as I get away from that event, and I return the phone calls.
Mhm.
And that has worked out really well for
Mhm.
our business, I believe.
Right.
And you can speak into that a little bit if you want.
No,
but-
yeah, 100%, and that's completely accurate. Plus, on that, at least growing up, he would put his phone in the office. We would have dinner, completely separated from business. And I got asked actually the other day, like, "Oh wow, you're working with your dad. Did he bring you to showings? Did he, make you sit at open houses with him?" Never. I don't think I was ever exposed to anything
No.
real estate growing up, and I actually went to college to be an elementary school teacher.
Mhm.
And then I made a phone call to him one day and I was like, I don't know, if this is exactly what I want to do. And he was, hey, why don't you try business? It's a very versatile degree and you can see, where it brings you, what you're interested in. There's so many different specializations at Central, so you can just kind of feel it out. You've got 4 years to feel it out. Don't
Mhm.
dedicate yourself to early elementary education if you're not completely dedicated to that. So I did it and I gravitated towards marketing and it worked out. So it was never, there was never a push towards what I'm doing, the trajectory of my life, nor was it pushed on me at a young age. I never even I don't think I came to one showing with you.
No.
Yeah, so it was never an expectation of mine.
Mhm.
There was definitely the boundary between family and business. Now, integrated together, we have a tendency to, we'll be at family dinner and we'll be excited about a transaction or something. So we'll start to whisper in the corner,
Shop
and mom
talk,
will
yeah.
have to say, "Come on, this is family
Yeah,
time."
yeah.
But we've gotten better about that. Now that I've been with him for 4 years, we can set it aside, talk about the cats and all that kind of stuff instead.
Yeah.
But also with this, going back on talking about know, like, and trust, we know each other.
No.
I hope we like each other
Yeah.
and we trust each other. But then coming into business, we had to create another layer of trust, of trusting the work that I do, trusting him as my leader, my boss, and everything. And I think the way that he's approached the education side of where I've never felt scared to say, I screwed up.
Yeah.
Something happened, and he always says everybody's human. Stuff
Well,
happens.
because I want to hear the mistakes.
Right.
I don't want her to ever feel afraid to tell me that she made a mistake out of fear of retribution or being upset.
Right.
Because I'm never going to get upset. Why?
Yeah.
I just know it too well. I just know our clients too well. I just know things it's not life and death. It's just life, right? And we're going to make it through whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And learning and knowledge comes in the mistakes. It doesn't come in playing safe.
Yeah.
Right? You don't grow when you don't reach out there and make a mistake, I've ridden cars very fast. I've ridden motorcycles very fast. And I know that the faster you go, the tolerance are a lot thinner.
Mhm.
Right? And I'd rather have the mistakes at a slower level once every 7 days than be going 90 miles an hour and have us hit a wall, because then parts start flying. Right?
Mhm.
So if we can course correct every 7 days, and if there's something that's minor that we can discuss, we can get through it. And typically it goes away, right? And we figure it out. We figure out the solution collectively between all of us. And there are lots of times when a problem comes up and Cassie says something to me, or a problem comes up, Sylvia says something to me, I go, great. That's a great Monday conversation.
Let's have fun this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say it's a great Monday conversation because that's when I want people to course correct. Because if this comes to me on a Wednesday, it gives the person that gave it to me a little time to deliberate and come back with the solution to the problem that they just presented.
And then we can all be together.
And the person
Yeah.
if the person that brought the problem can actually find the solution, that's the best outcome of it all. And if we get to a Monday and that still exists, then we collaborate with each other. But I love it when somebody comes to me and says, I have a problem, and then a day later said, oh, I figured it out.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had
Scratch that.
they had the fortitude
Mhm.
to want to research and to figure out what the right answer is to it, and then bring me a problem and a solution.
Mhm.
That's the best of all of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at. But when you start talking about how does a father-daughter do it like that, it's having that separation and not making things life and death,
Mhm.
and know that the job that we're doing every day to help people is the vehicle to our life. It's not our life.
Mhm.
I love that.
And it's about the fulfillment too of helping people and getting to do it together. Has been so fun. We have so much fun together, and we keep it light. And I think it's really cool watching our relationship change in a way where 16-year-old me backing into a tree in my car, hiding it from dad, to now he's the first person I run to in business, personal life. If I screw up, he's created that foundation of just, it'll be okay and we'll work it through together. So sorry I outed myself for backing into a tree, but
You thinking about me running over the stump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. Oh, I got to watch that firsthand. Yeah.
She watched me wipe something out, so she goes, aha, he's not perfect either. He makes mistakes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like a Monday problem there, Dad.
I should have said that. That's a Monday problem.
Let's pick that up on Monday.
Yeah,
keep
exactly.
keep
Pick up
duct
the
tape
bumper on Monday. It's stuck in a tree.
in our client's front yard.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it happens.
Yeah.
No.
But that's how you do it. And the thing is that, there's a succession plan. And what I wanted from the beginning, I have a son that's older than Cassie, and I just said, here's an opportunity. If you're into it, if you're interested, it's just an opportunity.
Mhm.
But I want it to be something that you want, not something I want, because if you want it, you're going to go do it. If I want it, then you're not going to do it. Right? There's some people out there that get family businesses handed to them and they don't even like the business. Well, what kind of a life is that?
Mhm.
The thing that happened to me when I got into real estate is I actually like it. I actually love it. I love helping people. I love coming up with solutions. I love this process. And like I told an agent the other day, I said, money follows success,
Mhm.
right? Money follows helping.
And
If you
passion.
help enough people, if you can help enough people get what they want, you're automatically going to get what you want. So it's people first, right? Helping them accomplish their goals first. If we always remember, if we're doing that first, everything else will come behind it,
Yeah.
right? So when we do our goals, we figure out, revenue. We figure out what does that equate to transactions, and then we equate that to let's go out and help that many people this year,
Mhm.
and we turn it back into them, and then we just focus the year on helping them, and we have the number in mind, but it's just a number in my mind. It's not like it's a crack the whip and everybody's got to fight for it. It's like, now how many people can we help this year with that in mind?
And it's about the connections too, especially he's cultivated such a diverse database. It's been so fun for me to get to know them. And we'll have people that I'll call, and he worked with them, 20 plus years prior. And they're like, oh my goodness, are you Phil's daughter?
Yeah.
So we go through that whole conversation, which it's really fun for myself to integrate into all of these relationships that he's developed, and then watch them continue to grow as we connect with them throughout the years, and just be there for them.
And the baton in their family. If they started with me 20 years ago and their kids are now ready,
They're messaging me on
they're,
Facebook.
they're messaging
That's
Cassie.
awesome.
They're not even
Yeah.
messaging me anymore.
They're bypassing him now.
I'm done. This is
Yeah.
in that way. But
They're
I'm connected
sent-
with their family.
Yeah, it's a pager. They're like
Yeah.
they're
They
beeping
try
you.
to call you, but it's a pager number. So
It's a
it
pager
doesn't
number.
go through.
It
Weird.
doesn't ring either. So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, that's true.
Check
too.
your facts.
Check my
Yeah.
facts. Yeah.
It's all stacked up now.
What's that?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So I think we're pushing up on time. So
We're talkers.
no, I think it's been really good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
really
thank
good.
you so much.
But so yeah, we'll wrap this up. But thank you both for taking the time and sharing. It's always very insightful. What we talk about, and I appreciate you and what you've done for me, with my business and my family.
Mhm. Likewise, it's mutual.
Yeah, and I'm excited to keep growing. Right. I mean, it's a time for progress, not necessarily profit in this market, but we're in kind of that slack
Yeah.
that you were talking about, and so we're excited, and we're working. We're trying to. You were touching on, helping people, and Alvina and I, we talk about relationships constantly. We
Yeah.
need to build more and more and more meaningful relationships, and the rest of everything else will solve itself.
Yeah,
So
I got one more, I guess, sea analogy for you since we've been on the boat this way.
That's the theme of the day.
Is that I realize that they have maritime museums, right? You ever been to a maritime museum?
no.
Okay, well, you should try that sometime.
Okay.
Down in Astoria, they got a maritime museum.
You got to
Okay.
take him.
Okay, so yeah, you want to go to maritime museum? together?
Sure.
We'll go down.
Let's go.
We'll make a day
Sounds
trip
like a
out of
date
it.
night.
Yeah.
If anybody goes out that they want to do one thing, go to a maritime museum. Okay, what is a maritime museum? It's a museum for the sailors that have beat the odds.
Okay.
The Coast Guard cutters, how they fight, people out there that have taken the odds on and they've come out of it, and they make museums, maritime museums for the mariners. Now, one thing I realized when I was looking around the maritime museum is there's no such thing as a sailor time museum. So it's easy for people to do things in calm water. It's when the water gets a little rough is when you really have to be a mariner.
Hmm.
And if you can figure out what your mariner status is, someday they'll be making museums around you in your own database. They'll revere you as being the go-to person if you take on that maritime status.
It's awesome. Love it.
So be a mariner.
All right.
My next marketing task: build a film museum.
And I'm not talking about Seattle Mariners.
No, I'm not talking about the Mariners.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
you're
very
welcome. Thanks
much.
for
Yeah.
inviting us in.
Yeah, absolutely.